Hey, yeah, I'm Magrann. I just won the Summer Derby. Uh,
For the second time.
yeah, second in a row. This time it was Boreal rules, so four strip. Um, I got to play the Copy Tog deck, which is a deck that I brewed up on the plane ride home from Chalice in 2021 with Mano. I was
Nice.
like, or no, sorry, not 2021. He played it in 2021. It was in 2020, right before COVID. And I just randomly brewed up this ATOG deck with copy artifacts and Black Vise and Icy. And I was like, what if I just didn't play the six drops in shops? What if I just stopped at four, and then if they strip me, they don't. I've already cast my Suchi or my Icy, and so we tried to play. I just said to him on the flight at Chalice, I just said, like, what about shops with ATOG? And he was
Uh-huh.
like, yeah, I mean, why not? It was actually the first deck that I had played in old school was an ATOG deck with shops in it. But I think I only had 9 red sources in my mono red ATOG deck because I was playing workshops and factories and strip, and it was just like, everybody's first deck has some fatal flaw. Mine was certainly the red sources, but this ATOG deck that I built, the Copy Tog deck, it was, yeah, I won the first tournament that I played at. I woke up in the morning. I said, hey, I said the night before I had trouble falling asleep. My girlfriend was going to sleep. I started thinking about this deck
Mm-hmm.
just randomly. I had just gotten a new car, a Honda Accord, like a week before, 2 weeks before. Before that, I had a car that my brother and I were talking about it last night because his car got stolen and lost and gone. He
As it happens, yeah.
Yeah, he had a 2000 Jeep that couldn't go over like 65 miles an hour.
Uh-huh.
So like he was saying how he got like pulled over on the highway once because he was going 55 at like 1 a.m. and it was like because the car had like the sweet spot of 55, but like at 65 or 70 it would start to shake. It's like, yeah.
Love
So
it.
anyhow, I had just gotten a car, so I was like, oh, I could actually go to this random Jimmy Cooney tournament, the Winter
Yep.
Ball.
Okay.
And so I was like, the night before, I just started thinking about this deck as I was like falling to sleep. And I woke up in the morning and like I woke up early and I never really wake up early. And I had the day to myself and I remembered like, oh, I think Jimmy Cooney was hosting a tournament. Maybe I could go to that. And talk to my girlfriend. She was like, yeah, that's fine. And I put the deck together, took a deck picture. I went. I literally didn't lose a single game the whole day. I went 13-0 in games.
Fuck yeah.
I played Scheffenacker in the finals of that tournament. I played it. I won. So Cooney decided that the people who hadn't been on stream yet should be on stream for the final round rather than the finals between myself and Chef, who are the only
Okay.
two undefeateds.
Right.
And I
Okay.
was like, they were like Dice City guys. And I was
Of
like,
course. Yeah.
yeah, I was like, yeah, okay. Well, this is dumb. We're both undefeated. This is like we're playing for the finals here, but whatever you want to put on your two, up and coming Dice City guys, that's fine. Um, so I won 2-0 in like 15 minutes against Chef in that tournament. Like I just crushed him.
Yeah.
And I was on the draw, and then Cooney comes over and is like, "Oh, they just finished. We'll put you on for the next game." And I was like, "The match is over already."
Game's over, homie. Game's over.
And then we did decide to play a third one just for fun, but not on camera because I was like, "Screw you, I'm not." And I beat him again on the
Good.
draw
Good.
for the third time in a row. So yeah, it was really sweet. And so I was like, well, I have this cool deck. And so that's what I've been playing in four strip since then, pretty much. Um, which was cool. Um, and yeah, so it's just been an evolution of this deck over the years, to kind of to where it is, which I don't even know if it's better than where it was when it started out, to be honest. But
Like,
um,
I guess to me, what the interesting, like you're playing, I'll put the photo. I'm looking at your deck photo,
sure,
but I'll put the deck photo in the show notes or whatever. Um,
yeah,
I think what's interesting to me, or I guess what goes counterintuitive to my mind, is that you're playing 4 Suchis in a mana burn format. And
Yep.
I think it makes sense considering you have 4 Ices. Like you can use that mana if those Suchis eat shit. But it's
The
just
ATOG can
yeah,
turn them
ATOG can eat
into
them
Mind Twist
exactly.
for 7 or something like that.
Yeah, or like dump it. Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of like uses for colorless mana in this deck, which I think is pretty interesting.
Hmm.
Like you don't see a lot of people doing that. Like I would never think to play 4 Suchis in an ATOG deck.
Yeah, I've
Uh,
dodged probably 2 damage off of just icy taps, which is, something
yep.
that I don't know how much it actually mattered. I'd have to really look through my notes to see, but it at least happens. So
Where do you think the deck goes from here? Like, do you think I don't think you think this is the final form, but do you think it's the final form?
no,
Okay,
no, it's definitely not. I mean, I don't think any deck's ever in its final form.
that's fair.
That's the nature of decks.
Do you hold on, that actually brings me to some of my questions I actually wrote out here. Hold on, let me get to it because it's down at the bottom
Sure,
here. The like so when you build decks, like we'll use the term metagame. I don't like using that term in old school, but I'm going to use it because I think it plays here. But
sure.
how do you prepare for like the summer derby? Like I know you have decks in your mind, but how do you tune those decks? Like for the quote unquote metagame, which is probably more likely like the format, right? Because the format changes by tournament.
Yeah, I mean that's the way that my sort of like life revolves around Magic is that I think about either Swedish, Atlantic, or four strip in some variation, whether it be Boreal or EC or American rules. Um, it just any of them could be. It changes what I want to play and what I want to do. Um, Generally, I have kind of found for myself that I if I want to win a tournament, then I want to play the best deck that I can possibly play.
Mm-hmm.
I want to play it as well as I could possibly play. I want to like give myself the best chances, accept the fact that it's not always going to work, but give myself the best chance that I can and really just do my best at Magic in playing and building and strategizing and sideboarding and all of that stuff. Um, that's like the ultimate goal is to be able to do that and like do that as often as I can and as well as I can and keep getting better at that because it's never, it's definitely a path that I'm going to just continue to go down rather than a destination that I'm trying to get to.
Okay.
Um,
Do
yeah.
you think that have you developed like heuristics with regards to building decks for different formats like or
Hmm.
is it just something where you like sit down and challenge the assumptions that you've made previously? Do you
Mm.
know I don't know if that makes sense like I'll try and relate it to poker because I'm kind of trying to learn that game but like
Sure.
if it's like a monotone board or like if you have if you're under the gun one and you have ace king and it's like a monotone board are you do you heuristically check back or do you think through who you're playing against and all that stuff and like develop new assumptions based on that?
Um, the way I would see that analogy is like mulliganing.
Sure.
Like I think in the copy tog deck that I played in the summer derby, I think because it's four strip, you
Hmm.
need to really be proactive and aggressive, and you need to be the one who's asking questions. Because if you play a land and you're playing a land in the hopes of like countering what they're doing, and then they just strip you and like you just lost the tempo and like maybe now you're even further from casting your spells. It's like the worst. So you
Yeah.
kind of always want to like put a mana source into play, like I don't know, basically put it into play tapped. Like you always want to use it for something relevant. Um,
Okay.
and the copy talk deck really works well with that because you get to put down a 4 drop on turn one a lot of times, or you get to copy a mox or play one of the restricted cards of which you play as many as you can possibly play, sans regrowth.
Yeah, so it feels like more like make them have it. Always be playing.
Yeah, and like I mulliganed a lot in the Summer Derby this year, and I won a lot of games on low mulligans that normally people don't. I won a game on a mull to 4.
Yeah, I mean that's
after I won
pretty
the
crazy. Yeah.
first game on a mull to 5. Yeah.
Yes, that actually brings me that. Thank you for bringing that up. That flows really well in my next question, which was, do you think I was going to ask you what do you think some of the key moments were from this last Summer Derby? It sounds like coming out of some of those mulligans was pretty clutch, but I'll let you expand.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was a weird tournament because I started off batch 1, I was 2-0, but I had a match against Quinn and a match against Mark Evaldi left to play in the batch.
Ooh,
And
tough one.
originally I had gotten the bye instead of Evaldi, which is like such a crazy swing of like, oh yeah, I'm definitely going to be at least 3-1 to
Right,
like,
right.
oh, okay, yeah, I get to play one of the toughest guys who is the only person who plays this Reanimator deck. And yeah, so I had matches with Quinn and Evaldi, and I was supposed to play Evaldi the next day, and I played Quinn, and I overpowered him in the first game with Armageddon, and I also had an Ancestral, which always makes everything easier too.
Yes.
And then in the second game, I mulliganed to 3 and lost. And that sucked. I had Shop, Sapphire, and Icy as my 3 cards, but unsurprisingly, that didn't win because I was on a mull to 3. And also, the really awful thing in that game where I mulled to 3 was I had boarded out my balance, my time twister, and my wheel because he was playing like a Savannah Lions, like the Simon burn deck kind of thing.
Oh yeah, so you don't want to reload them. You want to like put them to 0 and leave it there.
Yeah, unless you're on a mull to 3, then you're like Lotus Wheel, great, let's do it. So yeah, so I lost that, and then in the third game, I missequenced on turn 1. I had a hand of Volcanic, Pearl, Felwar, Underground Sea, Time Twister, Atog, and an Icy, and I bottomed the Icy. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go. I was on a mull to 6. I'm like, okay, I'm going to hit this Time Twister on turn 2. So I'm going to play Volcanic Island, Mox Pearl, or I'm going to play Underground Sea, Mox Pearl, and Felwar. And then I'm sorry, I played the Volcanic Island instead of the Underground Sea. What I should have played was the Underground Sea. Right. And he played turn 1, Lotus, Mox Ruby, Balance.
Ugh.
Yeah. And he floated 2 white, and then he floated a white and played a Lion after that and a Factory. And he discarded his 2 duels that he had in his hand. So my Felwar was never going to be on because he had a Factory Lion. So it was just like he killed my Volcanic, and I didn't have red anymore to play the Atog, which the Atog just like crushes him. And realistically, like I was going to play the Volcanic Island on turn 2, most likely, unless I drew like a Factory, but that was the rationale for why I played the Volcanic, was like, oh, if I draw a Factory or a Strip, I might want to cast that, or play that instead. But instead I put the Volcanic out, and then he killed it with the Balance. And yeah, I never got red mana.
Ooh, yeah, it's tough.
I also never, and then he stripped me when I played the Underground Sea. And then I drew a Demonic Tutor the next turn that I couldn't cast. And yeah, so if I had played the C instead of the Volcanic on the first turn, then I can follow up and play Atog in case he either strips me, which doesn't turn on my Felwar, or he does something weird like that. Or if he plays a Factory. But if he plays a Factory, it's really if he strips me or does something to kill my land, like that kind of out of the box balance play. And yeah, it totally crushed me.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
didn't
it
have the
feels like a
mana
one
and
outer play,
lost.
right? Like it feels like such a low
Yeah.
percentage, but high payoff play. Like, would you normally expect Quinn to open up like that? I don't know.
I mean,
Yeah,
definitely not because I would expect him to play the deck, but
right, exactly. I
um,
actually didn't see
yeah, I
what he was
mean,
playing this year, but I'm sure it was
yeah, he played like
fun.
I think he called it like the Ode to Simon or something like that. Uh, Ode to MTG Misprint. I don't know. Quinn, he's got his,
He's got some spicy stuff
he
coming
goes
out.
down some quests
Yes.
with these decks, which, is cool. Cool that somebody is, checking it out, seeing what can be done in the space. But so yeah, so I lost to Quinn, and then Evaldi was like, "Hey, let's play. Why do you want to just play tonight instead of playing tomorrow afternoon? Because he has like two young kids and they
Right.
need to be sleeping so he can play." And so yeah, so we played, and I got turn one wheel against him in game one and won.
Nice.
Yeah, he
The
got a turn one
it,
animated a Rasputin, and then I swords did, which was pretty good.
yeah, I was gonna say like wheel feels kind of dangerous against a reanimator deck just because you're giving him 7 in the graveyard, but
Yeah, I think I kept Time Twister in, but not Wheel when I
that
sideboarded.
that makes sense because Twister is like not secretly, but like fairly good, especially when you get like a full
Yes.
fucking graveyard. You're like get fucked. Um, I've done
Yeah, it's
that
like a
once
Tormod
against
script.
yeah, it's better. Um, but on that like that kind of follows on the. Do you think that the competition, like, how would you say the competition in the derbies has changed over the years? Because you've played them since they've been around, is my understanding. Do you
I've
think
played, yeah, since
harder,
2018.
softer? I feel like there's more variance in the first batch, but I don't know. I'll let
I
you
mean,
your thoughts on
I
it.
don't know. I got to play against Quinn and Evaldi in the first batch, and I got to play against Lucas in the second batch. So, um, I played to like that's three of the strongest players in the tournament, I would say. And they're all very, very good players. So I don't know. I mean, it's definitely like the metagame has changed so much in 6 years.
Hmm.
Like what I was playing, what everyone else was playing. Um, I was playing like Atog Burn back then. I don't know. It was just a really different like people weren't playing low curves like they are now. People were
Yeah.
playing like really like I was doing really well with my did really well with my 9 red source Atog deck. Like that shouldn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. But it worked when I played it. And granted, it was mono red, so I didn't have any of the restricted cards except for wheel. Um, but yeah, it was a different world back then. Um, and like the format was just so different. And I for me, I just always kind of choose what I think is like the best thing, and I want to do something that really leverages the rule set. Like in four strip, everyone just has less colored sources. Like that's the thing that people don't tell you is, oh, well, yeah, I'm playing four strip mines in my deck because everyone's playing four strip mines, but you count the colored sources. Everyone has one or two less colored sources, and their opponent has four strip mines instead of one. So it's
Right.
like you're cheating on colored sources because you have to cut a colored source or two to fit three more strip mines into your deck. Like it's hard to not. But what I did with this copy talk deck is like everything is like if I have a blue source that stays in play after I play whatever, it's probably good still. But I want to just like put my mana source like if they strip my land, I'm happy because I've gotten a tempo advantage out of it.
Yeah,
And like I think the
I agree
tempo
with that.
game is just so much better in four strip. Like there's a reason I don't play this deck in one strip. I think it would still be good in the same way that Chops is good
Right.
in one strip, but I think it's like it might be the best deck in four strip mine. But if you take three strip mines away, I think it's the mana denial game plan of just like I'm going to crush your mana. I'm going to Armageddon you. I'm going to icy you. I'm going to strip you. I'm going to relic bearer you. You know, I'm going to play all the restricted cards. like, and do all the kind of mean things that I can do to you. But I want it all to be like, if you strip my land, you're probably in a bad place tempo-wise, unless you're casting your own spells, which is going to be tough because I've got so much mana denial. I've got as much as I basically can. And yeah, it leads to some fun games for sure, where I feel like I can, sometimes you just like trample all over someone in a way that is just like, should be illegal kind of thing. Like, I've definitely had some of those games where it's just like, oh yeah, I like just get like the turn 1 draw 7 or turn 2 draw 7, and you just like, I have 15 permanents in play and you have 3, and they're all getting tapped.
Yeah, you're like, Magic is fun. Let's just go to the
Yeah.
next. Yeah, like.
Yeah, I did that against Lucas. I went turn 1 Sapphire, Underground Sea, Felwar. Turn 2, I played a wheel. Turn 3, I played an Ancestral. I played a copy artifact on his Soul Ring. I played a Chaos Orb and a Bottle, and he had gotten a library and played a Dib off the library. And I played a Bottle and just totally crushed him. Just game over. And then in the second game, I had a library in my hand, and he didn't have an answer to library, and I had Sapphire Ancestral.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah, it did it. Yeah, he had a turn 2 Sarah, but I had a Swords for it. So, that's what I really liked about this deck too, is like it can play aggressive or it can play more of a reactive game depending on what you want to do. And so yeah, that was what I did in the finals. Was I had like my on the play game plan where I'm more Suchis and workshops, and then my on the draw plan where I'm playing more like white cards and the extra white source, because I want to be able to like disenchant something or swords it, or just play like a slow, like a controlling game, which is what ended up happening in that very strange game 5 of the finals.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah. That was a weird one for sure.
Yeah, it was a very strange game. I thought my hand was fine. I just had 2 strip mines, Lotus, a plateau, Hercule's Recall, and swords. I'm like, I don't know what can go wrong here, really. And yeah, it was just a strange, like, that was 4 strip Magic.
At its finest.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I just won the like absolute grinder game. Just ground them into the dirt. But yeah, this deck is awesome. Like, I feel like at this point it's like a well-oiled baseball mitt or something like that. Like, it fits my hand perfectly.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel with all kind of decks that I play at a certain point.
I mean, it's definitely, if anything, it's a beautiful deck for sure. I'll figure out how to like post the picture better, but like, there's a lot of love and care into this deck.
Yeah, for sure.
What's we might want to skip ahead real quick to talk about this, but
That's fine.
Your newest modification? I don't know. I would say alter might be the right word. Of one of your cards in this deck. I'll let you take it from there, but I wanted to
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I decided, I think it was before I won the Derby, or maybe it was after, I forget. I decided that like it would be a cool idea if there was a stamp for the person who won the tournament, because like it's a big
deal.
tough tournament. Yeah. I was like, well, there might as well be something. And so I randomly sketched up stamps for it and sent them over to Paul Da Silva, and he just whipped them up as he does.
As he does, yeah.
And yeah, it was cool. And they turned out really well. And so there's a summer derby and a winter derby stamp. So I was like, last year I won with the deck. I had a beta book that I stamped. I was like, this is the right card to pick for this. And yeah, then this year I won again, and in the middle of the tournament, I had gotten married and gone on my honeymoon after I won my top 8 match. I tried to be quick. I had a quick turnaround on my matches, and then I went on my honeymoon for 10 days. And I came back and I won the semifinals and then the finals. And so that was obviously great. And yeah, I was trying to kind of figure out, okay, well, what card am I going to stamp in my deck? And at first I was like, well, Copy Artifact makes a lot of sense. I don't have, I guess I only have one really personalized Copy Artifact in my deck. But I was like, I want to find a card that's special to me to stamp and important. And I spent a evening thinking about it, and I was talking to one of my oldest Magic friends, and I was like, well, I have a kind of crazy idea. And he's like, well, what's that? And I was like, well, my Black Lotus is my most sentimental card. What if I stamped that? And he was like, you absolutely should. And I was like, yeah, I got to think about this. And I asked Jacob Brotherton what he thought.
Right.
And he was like, he's a very honest person, and I really appreciate that about him. And he was like, no, you should do because I said oh, I might do Copy Artifact, I might do Lotus. He's like, no, you should definitely do Copy. And then I was thinking more about it, and I followed back up with him, and I was like, why do you think I should do Copy Artifact and not Lotus? I was like, this is my most sentimental card. I sold it one time, I bought it back. I'm not trying to it has weird connections with a guy who picked on me when I was a kid, originally owned it.
Okay.
And then he got testicular cancer and died.
Oh shit.
Yeah. He was in the bathroom and he slipped and fell and hit his head on the toilet and died.
Yep.
And they held a tournament to pay for his medical costs or the funeral costs.
Mm-hmm.
And they put his cards up as the prizes in the tournament. And my vintage mentor won that tournament against Paul Mastriano, who's a vintage world champ. And let's just say I would be very careful cutting his deck if you play against him. He's not somebody to, pass the opportunity to give his deck a quick shuffle. He's he's had some allegations, let's just say.
He's a classic vintage player. Got it.
Yeah. He's won a lot of vintage, a lot of Type 1 tournaments.
Yeah.
Have ended with Paul Mastriano leaving with the prize. But anyway, so Nick beat him in the finals, and he won a Black Lotus, and he held a tournament, a vintage tournament, and someone else won it, but it was a guy, Sam Burst, won it, but Nick knew that I was trying to get Power 9, and he was like, look, load it, start with the most expensive card first, because then you'll really commit to doing it, and it'll be easier to get the money for one Mox over time. But the Lotus, you've got to kind of commit to this, and then the rest of it will go relatively easily comparatively. And so I had worked all summer, and I was filming lacrosse games for my brother-in-law. And my parents had a thing with me where they would, all of my checks and money that I got, I would write it all over to them, and then they would just give me spending money. And it worked out really well insofar as I don't know, I was going to buy my car, and my dad, or no, actually I was going to buy I guess I basically bought a bunch of unlimited power from a friend, and my dad was like, oh, well, here's this money that from your paychecks that I put in the S&P for the last 10 years or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah, which was awesome. But I had to beg him to get the $600 for an unlimited Lotus in 2011.
Oh man,
but
to be 2011
he agreed to write the check for me. And it was all the money that I had, earned working that summer. And I bought the Lotus, and I was thrilled. And Then 4 years later, I decided I was gonna get beta power, and so I sold my. Nick hosts the NYSE Open Vintage
Yep.
Tournament
Mhm.
where they give out full Power 9 for the prizes. So I sold him my Lotus. He put it up as a prize. Andy Marketing, who's one of my friends and guys that I worked with playing shops and also playing the Bizarre decks, the Hollowvine deck.
Mhm.
He won the NYSE Open, and then we went to the SEG Con tournament in Roanoke, and he won an Unlimited Lotus there. And then he went to Eternal Weekend, and he won the Lotus painting there, which is like probably the most expensive painting, vintage champs painting of all time because it's Lotus.
Right, exactly. And they're not doing those paintings anymore, apparently.
No, yeah, they stopped. Yeah, which is insane. It kind of that was like the ultimate prize in Magic for such a long time for me, but it's very different without that. I mean, we'll see what they do. I would feel like if they did if you got the artists that were there to just do like a sick custom playmat, people would be like thrilled to have that.
Yeah, because I mean, like the playmat you can take with you. You know what I mean? Like
yeah. If I win, I'm stamping a card in my deck. I'm gonna make myself a stamp if I have to. Kind of thing. But you got to do something to be like this person won vintage champs. But who knows what they'll decide to do with it. I mean, hey, he should just give out like a Black Lotus. He just gave out a Black Lotus and wrote like Vintage Champion 2024.
That's it. That's all it takes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you know the patina of the card.
Yeah, exactly. So I won. So I sold the card to Montolio or Andy Marketing, and then he told me before Vintage Champs in 2019 that he was thinking about selling the Lotus that he had won in the NYSE. He was like, hey, Will, I know you buy and sell a lot of cards. Could you price this out for me? So I priced it out for him, and I was thinking more about it, and I was like, I should just buy it from you. Can I do that? And he's like, oh, that'd be great. Yeah. So I bought it from him. And yeah, it's now I bought it in 2019 at Eternal Weekend. The next day was the old school tournament, and I won the old school tournament. Nice. So yeah, I was like, all right, this is my lucky Lotus back again. So yeah, it was like one of my most prized, like cherished cards by far. So I decided that I would stamp it because hey, like getting married and having my honeymoon in the middle of the tournament, with DFB as the officiant, who is the tournament organizer, and he's very aware that I'm gonna be gone for the to take my honeymoon.
Right.
The tournament's gonna have to wait. I didn't delay the tournament by really anything by going, actually, which was nice. I think the other semifinal played like right.
It was like a day or two.
The same day.
Yeah. It was nothing big.
It was a normal gap in time between the tournaments, which was nice because I was a little worried that we were gonna like hold the whole thing up. But yeah, so I stamped my Black Lotus, which my Unlimited Lotus, and I got Lucy to write the year on it because I was like, I have a stamp, like a number stamp from the Spike Fest stamp that I make, but it is inevitably going to be slightly crooked. And it's just like, I don't want to,
Right. This got to be right. It's got to be correct the first time.
Yeah. Well, if it's an actual stamp, it has to, like, if it's slightly crooked, because the book, it's like on my Summer Derby book, the book, it's like slightly crooked. I mean, it's not like heinously crooked, but it's slightly off. And I was like, this will annoy me so much if it's on my Lotus and it's like not, not perfect. And so I asked Lucy to write it for me because I was like, look, this is, this has been such a special year for us. So, like, and yeah, so I had her do that, and I'm thrilled and excited to get to play it. Every time I draw my Lotus, I will think about this summer and how awesome it's been to, have like, yeah, gotten to get married it's been such like an awesome ride for me. And yeah, just kind of, same with Magic, right? It's an awesome ride, and I'm happy to sort of commemorate another, another victory and another, like, very important, influential time in my life.
Yeah, I mean, like I'll steal one from Mana, but it really ties the room together, right? Because like it links both those things that are linked both in real, like the tournament's linked with you getting married, but also
Hmm.
like you know what I mean. The deck is now there too as well, so I think it works out really well.
Yeah, no, for
The
sure. And
so
Christopher Rush has passed away, so it's
yeah,
not like the idea is like, well, maybe someday I'll meet Richard Garfield and I'll get him to sign my Lotus. That's like the pipe dream. But if he now signs my Lotus, which is he might be more inclined to sign it when he's like, wait, you stamped it? Yeah, I'll sign
oh yeah.
that.
I think might be able to find him at like Vegas. I heard he might come out for like
Okay.
the Vegas match. I don't know. I word on the street.
I
The
had heard that he might have like moved to New Zealand or something during COVID to
Oh,
like
it's
dodge
not that
the.
big a flight. Not that big.
I guess that's true. I don't
It's a
know. I
cool place
just,
to go
you
visit.
know,
Do a little
you never
skiing.
know if, yeah, I don't know if he like, you know, if he lives on like a compound there or if he's like, just his residence is now in New Zealand.
It's all right. Now I'm gonna have to track this down afterwards. Now I'm gonna have to look. The so how do you think balancing like so now that you're married, welcome to the team.
Mm-hmm.
How
Thanks.
do you think that yeah? How do you think that changes how like playing Magic? Like, do you think you'll how do you think it like influences your future stuff? You're gonna be able to travel more, travel less? Where do you think you're going from here?
Um, well, we're not sure if we're gonna have kids, but if
Hmm.
we do have kids, I'm going to do pull a mano and stay at home with them. And Lucy's a teacher. She just
Okay.
got a teaching job. Today is her first day actually,
Woo.
of like new teacher training. So yeah, so she wants to be. She's currently a history teacher at a Quaker school nearby. That's for kids with learning differences. Um, so kids that are like dyslexic and things
Hmm.
like that. Um, and yeah, she's really excited about that. Um, and so that's what she wants to do. And my job that I have now, is a job that pays me well, but it's not very fulfilling life wise. Um, I don't really, I do the things that I do because they pay me to do them. And like, no, I don't have any real, I don't get a lot of joy out of it aside from the pay when I get the paychecks basically. But having a child pays you absolutely nothing. In fact, it costs you a lot of money,
A lot
but
of money.
raising a child is like the most fulfilling thing that one could do, I would imagine. I'm, it's one of those things where I think it would be challenging, but I think it would be really worthwhile for me if that's the route that we decide to go down, and for
Fair.
us. But we don't know what the future holds, or any of that
Absolutely.
stuff. Um, but we have optionality with it, which is nice. So I think if we have a child, then I will probably travel less for at least the first couple years. Um, in general, I'll probably play less tournaments, but I don't know. The other, the door slides the other way, and I will probably just keep playing tournaments in the way that I do because I love it and it's fun. And it's kind of Magic is one of the main things that brings me joy in my life and is central in so many ways. It's like it just checks so many boxes as a hobby that it's kind of like crazy, where it's like, okay, we travel around, I have all these, traveling is fun. People just enjoy traveling for the sake of traveling. Um, I have like so many amazing friends through it, so many wonderful people, so many interesting people that you would just never cross paths with otherwise. The game is really intense strategically. If you want like something to think about while you're taking a walk or something like that, it fills that and then some. Um, the game itself is like fun strategically in a sort of different way than the preparation is. Um, and then there's like the financial aspect of it too, where you like learn to save and budget and, you know, spend way too much money on cards because it's so addicting and it does so many like great things. And for me, I walk while I think about Magic a lot, so it does the physical aspect as well. So it's like, what more do you really need?
Yeah, it's a one-stop shop, as the kids will say.
Yeah. And my wife Lucy is a philosophy major, and she is someone who she does not. She's like one of the least competitive people in terms of like sports or games or anything like that. She doesn't want to play, like she would never want to play Magic. Though she did play a multiplayer game once where everyone quit. It was like um type 4 or one of those kind
Hmm.
of things, and everyone just like lost interest and quit before she did, and so she technically
That's a
won.
win. Yeah.
So yeah, that she won that game. But she really does not want to play any sort of like competitive games. But if I want to talk to her about like the merits of one sideboard choice versus another, or she'll hear me out on those things and like talk me through them because she's studied philosophy and theology and she just likes to think. So it's a good combination in that regard because I get to talk about those things with her and continue to kind of like process the games and the strategy and all of that, which I just love so much. Thinking about the game, it's been, I'm obviously addicted to it, but it's been like 20 years at this point that I've just it's kind of like so ingrained into my life at this point that it's hard to see sort of where it starts and ends in a lot of ways.
Nice. We're at a little over an hour. What would you like to end on?
um we are.
Yeah, dude. I got a little timer up in my corner.
Oh, okay, mine says 44 minutes.
Never mind. Okay, actually, I'm not gonna cut this part, but it's because I had like started the room. Okay. We got 44 minutes. What do you want to spend the last 15 minutes talking about?
Hmm.
Here, let me ask you this question. What do you think
Sure.
is an underrated card in the four strip format?
um can I say relic barrier?
I feel like you can probably say relic barrier. I I
I'm
mean like it
I
feels
think
good for
copy
tapping
artifact is
down, right?
better than it's played.
You think
Yeah,
explain that. Explain that for the people who don't play Magic like you play Magic.
I think copy artifact is just the most versatile card in old school, pretty much in four strip, especially. It can be a mana source when you need it to be a mana source. It can be a factory. It can be their soul rate game. It can be a Triskelion or a Suchi or an Icy. Um, it just like fits in every hand. Like it's like a wild card almost.
Okay. Oh, that makes more sense, right? Like it's so many. It's like like when people talk about like regrowth. Regrowth is the best card that you've already cast, and then demonic tutor is like the best card you haven't cast yet. Okay,
Copy
I can
artifact
believe
is
that.
like the best card you've already played.
Yeah, it's like it fits that middle ground, which I can
Because my
appreciate
deck
that.
is so many artifacts, right? So it's just like you just and also like the ATOGs too. Like put half. I think I think it was at the Spike Fest. The top 8 was all something. It was like all the top 6 were all 4 ATOG decks
Hmm.
in the 75. And I just think that this deck more than most is I just have more artifacts, which means that ATOG is just my ATOGs are just bigger than yours. And like that's how you win the ATOG fight.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
So yeah, copy artifact is very. I mean, all the cards in the deck are good, but I would say copy artifact like is just one of the best unrestricted cards altogether. You know, sort of hard stop. And I don't think it sees as much play as it, you know, is probably justified.
That's fair. Did that
I
get
mean, the
in?
same.
That get in did work for you, didn't it?
Yes,
That one
it
single.
sure did.
Okay, all
I
right.
had two before in the main.
It feels.
And I think that may have
feels
been
good.
right to play two in the main because it's just so good. It just ends games.
What were you bringing your? Sorry, I'm going back to your deck, but what did you
Yeah, of
bring your
course.
Sage of Latinum in for?
I didn't ever bring it in.
Oh, okay, all right. I was like, man,
I would have
guess
brought it in for
okay,
like the deck.
just to like draw more, like try and outdraw them.
I mean, if anyone plays removal, their removal spells draw you a card.
Okay.
Like if I put a Sage into play and then I play a Suchi and you're like, oh, I want to Divine Offering your Suchi. Like, okay, well, you don't gain 4, and I get to draw a card.
Makes sense. Okay. I'm gonna have to pull up my
And as
AP
you
out
said,
and play it.
you know, at the sort of, you know, top of it all, right? The Suchis turn into mana, and the mana can be used to cast other things too with the Sage. Though that didn't happen for me at all because I didn't board it in once the whole tournament.
I'm gonna have to start playing. I got one of them. I'm gonna have to start playing it now.
Yeah, I like it a lot in more like regular shops. And I think it's good here. It's one of the like the thing that this deck has is options. Like you could have a more traditional sideboard with sages and, you know, more blue and red cards and less white cards. But I think Armageddon is so good. And I think Swords is a very good card, and I think Disenchant is a very good card. And so it's like all of those, you know, I think White's very good, as is really no surprise to anyone. Balance is also a good card. Like,
who would have thought?
I don't
Yeah.
need to, you know, it's definitely not the worst color in Old School. Let's just say that.
Here, I have another I have another good dumb question for you though. When you bring in the plateau, what do you take out?
Yeah.
Like when you want more white, what are you taking out to put the plateau in? Like, are you taking out another land, or are you just taking out some other card? Like, is it usually shop? Okay. Because you and
If
Simon
I'm
both play
cutting
like a white source on the
artifacts,
side, and I was just curious about how you guys bring
I
those
mean,
in.
I play a duel in the sideboard of most of my decks. I would say more
Okay.
than I might play more lands in my sideboards than anybody else.
Yeah, I'm always just curious about how, like, it's not intuitive to me, so I've asked that question of other people about when they bring it in and how they end up getting it in there.
I mean, it depends on the deck that you're playing, like, and what matchups you're trying to game for. But I think it can really be useful. Like, I have 7 white sources in my deck. It's better for me. Like, there's times where I need an 8th white source. Otherwise, can I really justify playing, you know, 6 white cards? I don't think that's a good idea, personally.
And you think 8 is kind of the magic number for?
I mean, 8's the most that I could fit into my deck.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, it's 4 strip, so everyone's mana is bad. It's just you don't want yours to be the worst, I would say. I'd rather be the one doing the mana denying than the one getting my mana denied.
That's actually a really good way of thinking about it. I like that.
Like, I'd rather, you know, I want to be sort of dictating the pace of play and how that's all going. And like, if people want to throw strip mines at me, they can, but it's like a tempo disadvantage. If I got to play something and they go land go, I go workshop Mox, Icy or Suchi, and they like strip my workshop. I might not have another artifact in my hand.
It may just not matter at all because you've already just played what you wanted to play. Like,
yeah, but like sometimes they don't, and then I play another Suchi or another Icy, and I'm like, well, crap, I'm losing now. That's what happened to me against against Jacob. in the finals, the first game, I think, I had a strip mine and he had played a workshop, and I'm like, I shouldn't, I had an Armageddon hand. I was on the draw. I was like, well, I got to try and make this work. And he just rained 4 drops on me. And yeah, if I had gone after his workshop, I might have won that game. But instead, I got absolutely crushed. But I just, you never really know whether, which half of the deck is going to show up. Which is what makes it really a tough, sort of question to find people in. Same with library. I had library just absolutely ran away with some games for me. And that was wasn't one of the games against the game against Jacob where I stripped his strip mine and then dropped a library, and that was like the end, right?
I mean, it wasn't the
I
end,
got
but yeah, it was
Drew.
basically the end. Like he could have scooped at that point, and it would have been the same. You know what I mean?
I guess he had outs, but it was that was the thing that won me that game was the library that drew me like 10 cards.
Yeah, exactly. Like after not being able to answer the library was like where I was like, oh, this game's probably over. I also was kind of sort of watching it at work, so I wasn't paying complete attention. But
yeah, no,
like,
it was a long weird game where that was the game where I just stripped him a bunch, and then we played draw go a million turns, and
yeah, and I think once it gets to that, like the person, I mean, it's no surprise, the person who draws more cards is highly likely to win the game at that point, right? Like,
yes, for sure.
and so you're
For
just
sure.
outpacing them on seeing most of your deck.
Yeah, totally, and that's why you play balance, because then you just all of a sudden they were winning. Now it's even again. Or
you're like, cool, get fucked, nerd. Yep.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, the 2 ices that I have in play look really, really good. We both don't have any cards.
The icy, like, it's just Simon was at one point talking to me about this, but like, it's like you have like two decks in one, right? Like you talk reference like 2 halves of the deck, and like you really have that here as well, where it's like you can be more controlling, you can be more aggressive, and you have both available to you, so you have a lot of options to play to the board.
Yeah, I mean that's it plays a lot of ways to copy artifact, and that it's just versatile. It like can be mana denial. It can tap a creature if you needed to. It can tie up their mana. There's a lot of like really cool kind of like techie things you can do with icy. Like you can. I had it in the derby that I quote unquote won with the Dingus Egg Shops deck. Or I guess it was the one that I did the ATC about, where I was in the top 8 and I said how I won the tournament, and then I almost got it right, except I forgot to mention how I lost to Rich Shea, or how I beat Rich Shea. Which,
that was really confusing for me to listen to that.
Yeah, I had a lot of people reach out to me to congratulate me about winning, and I was like, just thought it was so funny because it was like we were in like the top 16, but it did play out, or I guess maybe we hadn't even played yet, but like it was it did play out very close to what I said. I just I didn't end up actually winning the I didn't stamp a card at the end of that one. Let's just say that.
It was a fun one though.
I had a match against Raja in that, and we had gone to combat, and he had a Suchi in play and I had an icy, and he went to combat, and I was going to tap his Suchi because I was coming in for lethal the next turn.
Right.
But he's like, all right, go to combat. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. And he just attacked. He thought I was going to tap his Suchi, and then he just attacked with his Suchi. And I was like, well, sure, I'll take 4. And then in combat, I tapped one of his blue sources so he couldn't play copy artifact. And that pretty much like sealed the game for me, because I was like, wait, I can just, in combat, I'm just going to tap your lands. Because like now I don't need to tap a creature. I just need to make sure that you don't like put something down that I have to tap instead. And yeah, won the game because of that, which was cool. So it's like it I don't know. I feel like icy, it's like Tap your lands, tap your lands, tap your lands. Okay, whatever creatures you have are tapped now. My Etog is coming through. You have no mana, you have no creatures, and I have 9 artifacts in play.
Yeah,
Take
good
19.
Game. Right.
Yeah. And that's a really fun sequence to do, and it happens a fair bit because Icy, is just such a like strong card to play, in 4-strip especially. Because like you don't need the workshop to tap the Icy.
I noticed I would like to end on this, but I noticed that there's not a healing salve in this list. Are we off healing salve? Are we off that card now?
I think it's good in the deck.
In the deck, but not in ATOG. Okay.
The deck. Yeah, I don't think it does quite as much in ATOG as it does in the deck. I mean, it still could be good in ATOG for sure, but people have a hard time killing ATOG with damage. They usually kill it with swords or blue blast.
Makes sense.
All right. The healing salve could be kind of cool though, as like a defensive. I like swords as my sort of defensive card like that. My healing salve in this deck.
Okay, I get that.
I like the defensive swords to gain yourself some life, or that kind of thing.
Yeah, I feel like I'm gonna splash some white in my next time I play ATOG at a tournament now.
White cards are good. Armageddon.
I hear they're okay.
Is really sweet.
That's really what combo. I want is the Armageddon ATOG combo. I think that could be fun. What else? I really have to pee. I'm gonna leave that one on there. Yeah. What else do you want to talk about, or can I end this bad boy? Did I miss anything?
I don't know. Good.
I don't think I did. I have my questions up.
Yeah. I don't think so.
Nailed it.
Lucy asked me why I do well in the derbies. She's like, why have you won the derby the last 2 years? I was like, well, I don't know. I think I like to spend more time thinking about this stuff than most people do, and that probably benefits me more than it does them.
I mean, like, damn it, Will, I gotta pee, but this is really a conversation. I think about Magic all the time. I think about Magic all the time, but we have a different track record. That's what confuses me, right? Like, I would say that
how long have you been thinking about Magic every day?
Not that long. I mean, like, I played when I was younger, like less than that. Like when I played when I was younger, it was just playing for fun. Like there was no thought process of like, oh,
right,
like this is how you win games. It was just like, fuck yeah, cool cards, let's play this game.
Like, but you knew the rules generally.
Yeah. Like we could actually play like a game of Magic. And then
I did a tournament, and a judge would watch you, and he wouldn't like strangle you both.
So when I was a kid, I never played a tournament because they just weren't like. I lived south of you in Dillsburg, right? So like the closest card shop that I think was running tournaments was Comics Connection at the Camp Hill Mall. I don't think that exists anymore. I went to a quote unquote pre-release for Nemesis, I think. That's like the only like quote unquote like judge related Magic I ever played, not as an adult. And I didn't get a judge call at all there, but it's also pre-release, so probably nobody gives a shit.
You didn't go to any Bluebell game days?
Yeah,
that's where I saw people playing Vintage and 5-color.
I didn't know what Vintage was. But
yeah, I mean this was Type 1 at the time.
Yeah, I mean even like the idea of tournaments did not like not in my mind, right?
Well, what year did Nemesis come out?
No idea. I remember 98? The one card, maybe. I don't know. I'm not even gonna look it up. But I remember like I opened one of the cool art cards. It's like something. It was like one of like the title artworks for the card.
2000.
Yeah, 2000. That feels about right. What was I?
Yeah.
How old was I in 2000? I was 5, like 15.
I got my first cards then too.
I had played before that. That was my first like quote unquote tournament thing. Like we used to just play like on the living room floor. But I think about Magic not maybe every day. Not like tournament style Magic, but like some of the deck lists that I send you to like
Hmm.
be like, how bad is this? And you're like, it's real bad. Here's what I would do.
Hmm.
But I think about that stuff all the time. Like on my drive to work. That's drive home and drive back. I got 30 minutes each way.
Okay.
But I
Yeah.
guess what are you thinking about? Like I think about Magic, but what are you actually thinking about when you play Magic? And now I'm going to go to the bathroom while you talk about that.
When I play Magic or when I prepare for a Magic tournament?
When you prepare for Magic.
Okay.
All right, beer time.
Um, yeah, sounds good. I for preparing for a tournament, I'm thinking about what my sideboard is going to look like and what my sideboard plan is going to look like. Generally, I always have a relatively close list, whether it's my own that I played over time or it's a list that a friend who I trust has given me that I probably tweaked a card or two, just based on sort of the things I like to be doing. Like I'll probably play more, like there's different cards that each person likes more or less just based on their own experiences and their own preferences. And so I'm always thinking through my sideboarding, what sort of games are going to look like there I'm going to lose, what can happen to me that's going to like cause me to lose games, and yeah, the different matchups and trying to figure out the sideboard usually to kind of adapt to whatever it is that I expect is more or less of. Um, I think that yeah, there's never really a right deck, but everything is based on what other people are doing because you have to like just adapt to what it is that you expect and what it is people are going to do. But like you can never tell. I could never tell. Like we could sit down for a match, Eric,
Mm-hmm.
and I could know exactly what your deck list is, but I'm never going to know what you're going to sideboard of 100% unless you tell me, hey, this is how I sideboard, and I watched you like play earlier, and I saw you sideboard that way. But even then, that could all be just like a really elaborate like lie that you're telling. That like then we play and you board completely differently because ha ha ha. I made a big show of like this is how I sideboard against your deck, and now I switched it up because I know you're going to be doing this thing instead of oh well they'll board in all their artifact removal and I'll board out all my artifacts. Okay, yeah, that seems like a good plan.
Yeah, like I when I that's probably my biggest problem when building decks, right? Or like thinking about decks is I start with 60 and then add a sideboard instead of thinking of 75 or starting with the sideboard and working my way backwards. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
which I know that's a problem, but I just do
I
it anyhow.
usually start with 73 and then it goes to 75 over time. Or I build decks where I just kind of like, these are the ones that are locks to be in this deck. And then how many flex slots do I have? And then I just whittle it down card by card over time. Um, like, oh, I want four of this, four of this, four of this. So I want probably like 0 to 2 fireballs in my deck. I probably want like 1 to 4 Triskelions in my deck. Like, and then as I kind of round it out and see what sort of makes sense, what's cohesive with it all, um, I decide those last slots, and then it goes to the sideboard where I probably have 10 or 12 cards that are, I want to play a Blue Blast because I don't want to get crushed by Shatterstorm. I want to play, I really love Armageddon. I want to play 2 in my 75 because I think it's great in this deck. I really like Swords to Plowshares. I want to play some of those. But then it's like, I probably want some red cards, like sweepers for the weenie decks because I don't want to just get crushed by that. So it's like all these different cards kind of fill different roles, and the deck just sort of like grows from there into a 75, and it's all about like I want to find the card that's like does the best, is the best, like adds the most to this deck. Like I
Hmm.
think that I generally go to play the most powerful thing that I can possibly play. That's always what I err on the side of because I said it once a long time ago and I think it's still true. It's like power beats synergy in old school. Just
I agree with
the
that. I
best
think about
cards
that. Yeah.
are the best cards are so much better than the mediocre cards. Like, oh yeah, like you're playing a vintage cube. Time Twister is a pretty highly, played card. Serendipity is like one of the best creatures in old school. That's like such a terrible creature compared to what's out there now. Time Twister
Yeah.
is like
Yes.
still a respectable card.
Yeah.
It's
The
like, yeah, I
uncommons
should
from
just
the
play
newest
these
set are better
really good
than
cards.
Serendips. Yeah.
Yeah. Like they might not even print it at a common
Right.
at this point.
Exactly.
Like it's not good in, yeah. So it's just kind of crazy. But I think that like I pretty much always err on the side of like I want to be playing as powerful a deck as I can be, and just like there's cards that I don't play like you play the more sort of like low curve, aggressive creatures and burn kind of like strategy
Mm-hmm.
where you didn't have blue cards for a while. You didn't have like ancestral and
Yeah.
time walk
Part of
and
the
all
blue
that,
club
right?
now. Yeah. Just this year.
Yeah. So like I would like not play a deck that didn't have those at this point, just because I think that those cards, like if you cast turn one ancestral or turn two ancestral, or you're in the mid game and you cast an ancestral recall, this is not really much of a newsflash, but you're probably going to win the game.
Probably.
And yeah, same with like you're racing someone, you just draw time walk. It's like, oh yeah, this is really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Who would have thought?
the power cards just all scale together too. Like, what's the best card with time walk? Oh, probably like Time Twister or Wheel.
Yeah. What's better
Like,
than a new turn? It's a new turn plus 7 cards.
yeah. What's even better than that? If you Hercules recalled them before you cast the Time Twister.
Yes. Let me tell you, my biggest mistake from this last derby is I didn't read what Hercules Recall does, and then I cast it on myself instead of my opponent, and then I twisted. But it like,
Oh,
I know. It's
did you
like I was
did you
not
at
of
least
mind
play the
of
Moxes
sound.
back?
I played the Moxes back. I put everything back down. I like floated a bunch of mana, put everything back down, and then but it was dumb. I meant to get them so I could have like a clear board on their side.
How? Okay.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
that
bad.
doesn't
It was
sound good.
Will. It
Then
was bad. It was
was
real bad.
that
It
doesn't sound
wasn't.
bad. I mean, it could.
Yeah. It was definitely like a rookie mistake, and I'll always remember that, and it'll probably never happen again. Probably. Wait, Will, are you still there? Oh man, I wanna.
And that's that.
Oh, okay, you're back. You like cut out for a second. I thought you'd like dropped,
Oh,
but we're fine. Okay, now I got to go to Costco. Now that I've stopped the urgent need to use the restroom. Well, I have one last question, and then we're for sure got to cut it. But do you? Oh, I think we just lost him. Hold on, guys. Send him a little message here. We'll probably cut it there. But I'm going to keep this recording going just in case. And the video will be terrible, but the audio, there it is. All right, back in action. Gotcha. What was I had one last question. Oh no, we're back. Okay.
I think I'm still here.
It's fine. It's probably my internet if we're being honest. I know we're all about playing power, but in what world are you playing a spicier deck? Like what would it take to get you to do that?
It being a tournament that I don't really care about winning.
Okay. Okay. All right. That seems fair. Do you but would you even go to a tournament that you don't care about winning? Like, are you going to make that commitment? Like, I feel like the answer to that might be no, but I'm not you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I go to tournaments knowing I'm not going to win. Would you go to a tournament knowing you're not going to win? Travel.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on. I think you might have broken up again. I don't know. Say something, Will. I'm leaving all this in. You still there, bud?
I'm still there.
Okay. All right. But that was a no.
That was a no for a bit, yeah.
Okay.
But I guess I just I just don't you don't necessarily like for me going to a tournament that I don't really like. I've done it before where I've been like, oh, I just want to like go this and see it, and then it's like it sometimes that works really well and that's really like great, but a lot of times I'm like, I don't know if I necessarily want to like go back there to that one because it's not something that I'm really like you know dying to kind of win and like really put a lot of effort into and planning and thought. It's like it's hard to do that if it's not something that I like actively kind of care about. Um,
Right.
and
The
so I've played some spicier stuff at local meetups. I build a kind of cool elephant graveyard, red green elephant graveyard disco deck with Uthden trolls and rook eggs.
I like that.
That deck was cool. Earthquakes and chain lightnings and yeah, it was a cool like very sort of basic deck. But then I sold my elephant graveyards. I did the thing once. I sold my elephant graveyards. It was a fun time.
Haven't
And
looked back.
then no, not really. I haven't really checked the price on elephant graveyards in a while. I think they're about what I sold them for and what I bought them for. So like
Sold.
$100 each,
Easy.
maybe.
Yeah. Easy money.
Yeah. So I don't know. I have dabbled in these various like decks, and I'm going to keep trying new-ish things. Like I'll probably at some point play Reanimator at some point because I haven't really gotten to use my Bazaars much in a while. In old school, I haven't at all, aside from the MobsterCon tournament. I played like
Okay.
an ATOG deck with Sylvan Library and like the Jaco style deck, but it was like ATOG with a bunch of like draw sevens and stuff like that. And I was just like, I just want to draw the best cards. Um, it was okay, but not amazing.
Why do you think people don't play more Reanimator? It's had a good showing recently.
Because people don't own 4 Bazaars.
Is you think that's the only like literally the only reason?
I
It's just a
mean,
bizarre issue.
who's are you really gonna? I mean, they could probably borrow the Bazaars if they wanted to, but people don't like to borrow cards. And like, how many people just have a set of Bazaars
Right.
flying
Like
around?
3
It's the
people.
same with
Yeah.
workshops. It's the same with workshops.
But
Like,
more people
I,
have workshops. Like I mean, everybody in
I
San Francisco
suppose,
has a
yeah.
set.
Yeah, that's fair. It's just like I think workshops is one of those decks where it's a lot better than it is represented because of card availability and like who's owning. If you're like, what's a set of workshops? Probably.
Fuck, I don't know. It's
I
expensive.
think they're like
Sure.
1,500 each.
Yeah, that feels right.
That's what I
Feels
think
good.
I've seen on Discord. So that's 6 for a playset.
Yeah.
And you can basically, there's multiple variations of shops, but you're basically like for one deck, like that's a lot of money to play that. Like it's 3 CE Lotus is what, like 2? So it's like 3
Yeah.
CE Lotuses, like for one deck. That seems not the greatest, bang for your buck if you're getting into old school. Like, it's like,
Yeah.
well, what's the point of this? Like, I've had my workshops since 2011 and 12.
Right. I mean, they still play in
Like,
Vintage, is my assumption. Like Shops is still like the number one deck.
yeah.
I'm not
Well,
100
I don't
percent
know if
sure, but
I don't think it's number one right now, but
okay.
it's still a deck.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
still a very good deck in Vintage. I think they've printed some cards that have changed the format around a bit, but everyone plays Wastelands in Vintage.
Yeah. I would
There's
think
all
that.
kinds of crazy cards that people play. But anyhow, I just don't think people own Bazaars or workshops. Like those decks are way better than the amount of play that they see. But like, who owns those cards? The same with like, there's probably some spots where people could play like a Tabernacle in their sideboard or like Drop of Honey, and it could be good. But like, who owns those cards?
Yeah. I mean, exactly. Like Tabbies, I assume, are probably going for around the same cost as a workshop or a. I assume bazaars and workshops are all the same, about the same cost. I'm
I
not
think
100% sure.
Tabernacle is like 2K.
Sure. I mean, it's close. Like
Yeah,
if
it's
we're
all
buying
close.
cards
I
like
mean,
that,
if
it's
you're,
all close, right?
yeah,
Like
no, for sure. It's what's $1,000 or $2,000 when you're spending 6 or 7 or whatever on a playset. Yeah, it's all, but it's just like, do you want to own this card just for this one thing, or have other cards? And so I just think that like Bazaars, like people would play Reanimator if Bazaar was a $5 card. Reanimator would be like
it'd be
the mono
rampant.
black deck.
Yeah,
Oh
rampant.
man, you have to own, I have to buy Rasputins. Like maybe they reprint, there's a Chronicles Rasputin or something, right? Like
I'm pretty
it's
sure.
like
Yeah,
if in this magical Christmas land kind of thing, like where they've reprinted Bazaar and Chronicles all of a sudden, like I don't think it would be an expensive card. It's like it's just a print kind of thing more than anything else.
that's fair. Okay. All right.
But I think it's a good deck. I just don't. I've never played it. But it plays all the good cards. It mulligans aggressively. It has Bazaar to find the best cards, which you add Animate Dead into that because you get to discard those guys. And yeah, it seems good.
Okay.
Seems good.
Seems like a
So
good
yeah,
one.
powerful Magic cards are good. And Reanimator plays powerful cards.
Yeah, I guess that's what it really comes down to. It's like powerful cards. It's just what shell do you want to put them in. Interesting. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
What else, Will? I got 15. I got to be at Costco at 10 o'clock. Got to.
10 o'clock. You got to get those
10 o'clock
chickens.
my time. I got to get a hot dog. No, I have a list of things I got to buy from Costco that like I've
Okay.
tailored over the years.
Okay. Yeah, we get very specific things from Costco.
Like this
We
is
get
my list of stuff I have to do today. It's the thing I like. My day is like list driven because it's like
yeah.
yeah, it is what it is.
I
But
have a board next to my desk with all
oh
the
yeah,
my to-do list.
we got that down here too. This is a different to do list. That's a
Right.
long term to do list. This is the today to do list.
Gotcha. Yeah, there's different ones. I'm the same way. So yeah, I've got my list at Costco as well. Do you get quinoa from Costco?
I don't do quinoa. We do jasmine rice. Is so.
Okay.
I feel like I've actually talked to you about this in real life, but in the Martin
Mm-hmm.
household, we pre-make rice, potatoes, bison, which we get from Costco, and chicken that I don't get from Costco. So there's
Mm-hmm.
always 4 containers with
Yeah.
that in the fridge. So there's never a
Not
point where
food.
like yeah, there's never not food, and
Right.
because we kind of like have my wife is more specific than I am, obviously, but she like we always eat kind of the same things, and that helps
That's what we
tailor.
do too.
Yeah, it just helps tailor what we buy, but it also helps if like I'm not competing right now, but if I was going to compete, it makes it much easier to like tailor the total calories and the amount of
Mm-hmm.
macros when you have those
Mm-hmm.
base ingredients and you're just adding like a sauce.
Yeah.
And then we keep frozen vegetables and some fresh vegetables in there as
Uh-huh.
well.
Yeah. I'm
It's
surprised you
insane.
eat white rice instead of quinoa.
I don't
Do you not
I
like quinoa, the taste of quinoa?
No, I think it's all fine. Like I don't necessarily eat for flavor all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, so
the
Lucy is low
yeah,
glycemic, so that's why we eat quinoa instead of rice.
that's potatoes are my low GI index food.
Yeah, the
That's why
FODMAPs.
there's both of those there. I
Uh-huh.
don't worry about that. So I only have like maybe 300 grams of rice a day on work days and less than that on non-work days. The
Uh-huh.
man, nobody's going to want to hear this, but the
This
um
is interesting to me
I
as I
know.
get my bag of quinoa out of the closet to
Yeah,
look at the macros.
the and that those numbers are just kind of tailored for what my workday looks like, but the I also have like usually 100 grams of some type of vegetable mixed in, and I
Mm-hmm.
eat five
Yeah.
times in a day. So
Okay. Interesting.
yeah, if anybody wants to hear more about magic, it's over. We're just going to talk some food stuff. So I
Yeah,
eat
sounds good.
on a work day, I eat 5 times a day.
Yeah.
So I get up and I initially eat, and I also the only thing I really track when I'm not competing is fiber and protein.
Wait,
I
what do you
think
compete in?
when I was competing in powerlifting, so like trying to lift the most
Oh,
weight and
okay.
like three
Yeah.
things, then I'm worried about other things. But when I'm
Mhm.
not competing, I'm just trying to like be strong, but not trying to be like trying to peak to be the strongest at any given
Mhm.
day. Uh, I worry about protein and I worry about fiber. The rest of it, I don't really give a
Mm.
shit about. I don't drink like
So
sugary
you,
stuff.
but quinoa has 6 grams of protein in it.
Yeah, but I don't care about that protein. Like I'm getting my protein from chicken,
Hmm.
and some other things
But
throughout the day.
okay. I guess
Uh,
I would just think you could eat like to me
you
rice
can.
like the it's like I don't know. I after switching over to eating quinoa instead, I'm like I just feel like it. I don't know. It's a good like min max food.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. There's a lot of flexibility. I'm gonna go on a diatribe. There's a lot of
Yeah,
flexibility
of
with what
course.
people want to eat.
Yeah.
My thoughts and
No, I
opinions
mean, I'm sure
are.
you've got it all mapped out to like what works for you. I'm not second
Oh
guessing
no,
that.
no.
I'm just saying it's interesting to me because to me, like quinoa has, a lot of fiber, a lot of protein, a lot of
Mhm.
iron in it. And it's just like for us that really like Lucy is pescatarian and we
Okay.
mostly eat
Yeah.
vegetarian. So it's like it the protein is a key, is a key part that we don't get otherwise. But I just think like we go to an Indian restaurant every week
Mhm.
and we get like a rotation of two of four entrees. So I have my own. I have GERD and IBS, so
Mm,
I
mhm.
don't really eat anything spicy at all. So like I'm like I would like mild, but like
But
the
real
gentlest
mild.
mild you can,
Yes.
yeah, you can do basically. So yeah, so I eat like we eat akin to you, I suppose. We eat the same things over and over again. I don't think we have the process down to the level that you do. Um, Insofar as I don't have like a spreadsheet with all of the numbers of the things that we do that we're eating,
Right.
or like the 5 times a day. Like I think that's all awesome, and it sounds like it works for you. And that's the thing that like ultimately matters with all of this stuff. It's like it works for you, great. That's
Exactly.
like
That's
and
what
like
really
you get
matters.
what you want to get out of it. Like that's the important thing. My cousin is like a national champion power lifter.
What's his name?
Sean Mills.
I think I know Sean. Yeah, for the what is
Yeah, he's
different
like,
for me compared to other people is that
mm-hmm,
I think food as more, for the most
like
part,
a
I think food is more as
fuel.
like a fuel as opposed to
Yeah.
anything else. Like, don't get me wrong, I
Mm-hmm.
fucking love eating pizza and macaroni and cheese and all that stuff, but I realize that's
Yeah.
like putting like dirty gasoline into an engine. It's not good
Yes.
for you.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I don't. Yeah, I try to eat. We. I'm much better about buying things or like making a list with Lucy and avoiding purchasing any of the like garbage that I don't want to put in my body.
yeah,
It's
and
like, yeah,
that's where
we
I
eat a
think
lot
lists
of
help.
fruits and vegetables and, you know, like you know, whole foods rather
Yeah.
than processed garbage and feel a lot better as a result. But I'm also like, I, I go for an hour walk after I eat and I generally don't sit because sitting doesn't really help feel good digestive wise. So like, that's one of the hardest things about magic tournaments for me is having to
Yes.
sit for 10 hours in a chair or whatever.
If you just played worse like me, you'd have more time in between rounds.
Or
The
play faster deck.
or play faster deck. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
there's a pretty good amount of research that suggests that like walking 10 to 20 minutes after you eat is really beneficial for reducing the tiredness most people feel after eating, and that
Yeah.
tiredness is it's a spike in insulin that
Yeah.
is a spike in blood sugar.
And
So when
like
you
your body
eat,
working
yeah,
to digest it all.
exactly. So if you eat and then literally just like take a walk around your block, or whatever, 5, 10 minutes, the timing probably doesn't even matter that much as long as you get, you
I go
know,
for an hour walk usually after I eat.
see, I can't do an hour, but I'll like when I eat breakfast, then I immediately start some chores, and that all those
Hmm.
chores I got to walk through my house and it's a fucking pain in the ass. But
Sure.
that's my quote unquote 10 minutes. I don't have to like necessarily
Hmm. Yeah,
solo
yeah.
dedicate some time. But then like after lunch when I don't have to do
What's
as
it?
much dumb shit,
Neat.
I can do it.
Neat.
Which
I think that's what it's called. NEAT.
I don't know. I
It's like there's a term for. I think that's it. Neat time.
yeah, that's my Monday. Like every other week, my Monday and Tuesday is basically dedicated to like getting shit done around the house. Because I don't work every Tuesday of the year. I don't work, but then like there's a week where don't work Monday, Tuesday, and that's like my
Yeah.
get shit done. The
Non-exercise activity.
Yeah, I do a lot of non-exercise activity on my days off, and then for like
Nice.
lunch and dinner, I can get a walk. Like I live in a neighborhood, it's
Uh-huh.
really easy. I can just like go walk around a park, and
Right.
I can throw a stone to that park from my house.
Yeah.
Um, and I think you're
Yeah.
similar from where you live
Yeah.
at.
We have a trail. We
Yeah,
have a trail that could go all the way into Philly
yeah,
from where I am, which is a 45-minute drive. So like you can walk on there as long as you want to walk and turn around. So
exactly.
I go on like the same walk every day, and I just go a little further up the hill.
Yep,
Um,
yep.
and yeah, it's nice, but yeah, I don't know. Everyone has their own sort of like rhythm that works for them, and it sounds like you found it, and I think I've found it by and large too. Which yeah,
And
but it's like a
that's like the
weird
important part to highlight is like you just need to
yeah,
build those habits. Like it's the
right.
underlying ideas behind it that matter, not necessarily like how you execute it. I think is
Yeah,
the most
this is
important
why I
part.
can talk about magic with Lucy because
Yeah,
she doesn't care about if you think about it, more in a like I think that's what magic is so great for is that it just trains you to think and like analyze things and look into things in ways that a lot of people like you're sitting there scrolling on TikTok you're not doing.
yeah, that's like I definitely struggle with the social media. I love a good social media doom scroll.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what really I think is what is interesting or what I spend time thinking about is how like building frameworks or like how
Hmm.
people think. There's
Hmm.
some interesting books to read on that, or
Yeah,
just
for sure.
whatever you can Google it. That type of stuff is more interesting because that really dictates uh, how people like go throughout their lives, right? If they
Hmm.
people with like out or with flawed frameworks or without frameworks generally do poorer than people who have like a framework, even if it's not like optimal, they do better
Hmm.
because they are able to not have to think about certain things, or they're able to
Right.
think about certain things in certain ways. So,
Yeah, that's why I make sideboard plans.
see, and I literally wrote on my to-do list sideboard plans.
Yeah, I have like crazy like I iterations of each tournament I write out a new sideboard plan.
You actually write
And
it out. Like I used to do that when I was playing
uh-huh.
more
I'll
like
see
quote
if I
unquote
can
competitive Magic, but like
see if I can so yeah, that's my one
holy shit,
from
I was
Spike
never that
Summit.
much.
And then each tournament I do like a new one. So then like there's my camera just doesn't seem to work today. Let's see. Maybe I can
It'll be
just
okay.
switch it to this. Yeah, that works. Um
There it
then
is.
yeah, so it's just like I said, do this every tournament, and it helps too because then you can like highlight certain cards. I guess my camera's never gonna work. That's
That's
okay.
okay. It's okay.
Um, but like I can highlight like which. Oh, I'm thinking about whether like in the deck whether I should have 3 lightning bolts or 2 lightning bolts. Oh, well, where do you board in the third lightning bolt? Look at all the matchups where the third lightning bolt comes in. Oh, well, if I replace that with this card, which might be better than lightning bolt against these, like you can kind of like that's how I, you know, like each card is coming from one thing into another, in the same kind of way that you like think about food. It's like, okay, yeah, you take this piece of chicken and turn it into you know, 2 shrimp instead. It's gonna, do something
Yeah.
slightly different for you. Um, and I feel like it's the same with like cards in your sideboard, and oh, do I have lightning bolt or should I have swords to plowshares? It's like, well, lightning bolt can go to the face, but swords can get any creature. Both cost 1, but one's red and one's white. Like, do I have more red mana? Do I have more white? Like, going through and weighing those different things. Yeah, it's just a fun process for me. And I guess to kind of build on what you had said before about like, yeah, you've been thinking about old school, like it's always in the background, right? Is
Yeah.
that a good way
Yes.
to put
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yep.
it's been like that for me, but it's been in the background for 20 years now.
That's fair. That's
And a
fair. I'd
lot
say
of the
4 years at
time,
best.
it was in the foreground, like very, very actively in the foreground of my mind for, of the, whatever 15 waking hours I was, whatever, I was probably spending like 3 or 4 hours every day on it. And like
Yeah.
that, I don't know, it's just like building up reps and hours in games and all that kind of stuff. Like
Makes
I've
sense.
played in so many tournaments at this point and so many matches, and I think, I try to really like take something from all of the losses that I've had and try to like learn from that and see what didn't work before. And like, so I have a note file on my phone for
Hmm.
each deck that I play,
Okay.
and I update it after every tournament to say like what, did or didn't work with the deck.
Okay.
So
That makes
like,
sense. Yeah. You're just like you're reviewing like performance after,
yeah,
like, you know what I mean? Yeah.
like here's what I said after the second batch in the Derby. I went 6-2 in the Derby. Game losses were to keeping a bad 7, having Evaldi drew a Rasputin immediately after my late game balance to 0 card, and I drew nothing. I mulled a 4 against Quinn. I made the wrong land drop on turn 1. Oh, I guess I mulled a 3 against him. And I also lost a game to Edwin. Was on Twiddle Vault, and he killed me on turn 2.
Hmm.
Straight
Hmm.
up dead on turn 2. And I
Yeah.
was on the draw that game. Um, Overall, hard to be upset. The deck performed well. Felt a bit reactive at times, and the color mana was occasionally a challenge, but the white and red cards were strong. Would like to try it without white at some point, but unsure it would really be better. Was reminded throughout how raw power wins out. Library, balance, and the draw sevens all took turns powering me to wins. I should be less afraid of keeping them in for matchups where they might not be ideal. So I just like have a note like this, and I just update it every time I play it, like play in a tournament, or I'm thinking about how I'm going to build my sideboard. I, just sort of add to the note. And so I have all these different kind of living documents, and I have a whole folder of pictures of deck picks.
Hmm.
I don't know how many are in it at this point. It's a lot.
Yeah, I do that too. I keep a list of all my decks.
282 deck pictures.
Not that many though. Fuck.
Yeah. And I've played 93 old school tournaments thus far. I have like a spreadsheet that I keep track of all my results and all that kind of stuff.
Nice.
What I lose to. Yeah, I don't know. I just enjoy doing that sort of process, but yeah,
Yeah. No,
I
I
think
like
it's
that stuff
just
too. That's fun.
hours is, just throw like I've thrown so much time into playing Magic at this point. Like I'm 32 and I've been playing Magic since like actively playing it every day since I was like 12. So 20 years, 20 of the 32 years I've been alive, I've been like playing or thinking about Magic every single day. And like, I don't know, I just want to keep getting better at it and keep thinking more about it and, sharpening the knife. And I don't think there's ever like a deck is ever finished. I think that because the metagame will shift to fight it
Right.
in
Yeah.
some
There's always
sense.
something new happen. Like
And then
there's
you need
yeah.
to fight them off of what they're fighting. It's just, you just keep going back and forth with that. And yeah, that's what makes it fun. And for me, I switched between like, okay, I was playing the Derby and that was Forest Trip, and I'm playing Copy Tog, and now I'm switching to focusing on LobsterCon, which is Atlantic. So like the hymn decks really matter, and people are gonna have Fallen Empires cards. Like,
God damn it,
people
Will.
are gonna play Acacian Javelineers and Orders and that stuff. You've got to go to Costco.
I got to go to Costco. Do want to talk
Yeah.
about LobsterCon. We maybe need to do a second episode. I'm curious to
I
see your
mean,
thoughts. If you don't want to necessarily give up your deck before LobsterCon, we can do it afterwards. But I'm
yeah, I
interested
mean,
to hear your
I'm
thoughts
happy
on it.
to, yeah, yeah, that's fair. Yeah, We can always chat later.
Yes.
We
I'll
also
message.
don't
I'll
necessarily
message you.
have to chat on a podcast if you don't want to.
No, I know. The podcast is
but
the
I'm happy
podcast
to
is
talk
irrelevant.
on a podcast too.
It's hold on. I am going to cut this right now. Hold on. Give me 1 second.
Sounds good.
All right. Hold on. Stop recording. Okay. The